Alright, now for the next step, I'm going to show you how to create these little bubbles and these little particles that can be used as a trail behind the orb and behind the tail of the orb. Let me go ahead and show you the original image or the completed image over here, and you can see what I'm talking about. You can see this little orb here, and then he has the little bubbles and little particles coming off of them, and it really gives a really cool special effect. So let me go ahead and show you how to create that. I'm going to actually do these little particles on a separate layer above the blue orb layer. So what I'll do is just click on the new layer icon, and I'll just name this bubbles. And then what I'll do is select the paintbrush on the toolbar. And now what we're going to have to create is a brush that will allow us to paint with these little scattered particles and these little scattered bubbles. So in order to do that, you must go into the brushes palette. So come right up here to window and select brushes, and I'll bring this over here so you can see it. The brush that we're using right now is obviously it's just an oval, very soft oval brush. Well, what we must do is click over here where it says scattering. See this right here? Go ahead and click on that. And as soon as you select that, you're going to start to see the brush just completely fall apart, scatter into all types of little tiny brushes. And we can control that scatter by just adjusting the scatter control right here. Look at that. And let me go ahead and I'll turn down this diameter here so you can see this just a little bit better. I'll turn up to scatter, and look at that. So this is what it was before, but as soon as that scatter goes up, then it just explodes into these little atoms, almost, it looks like. So I think I'll go ahead and just leave it right about there. Now let's go into shape dynamics. We can control the jitter size as well. Look at this. Now the jitter size, if you turn this up, it's going to give you different size particles or different size bubbles in your brush. Watch, I'll turn it up a little bit higher, and you can see now we have small and large size little dots and little scattered dots. But here's my favorite. If I go down here and select fade, well, now we can actually fade. We can use this brush and we can start to paint having larger particles, and then as we paint along, the particles get smaller and smaller and smaller. Look at that. So that's another option you can do. I like to keep it really basic, but I also like the fade option, so I'll just keep that right there. You can also control the spacing over on the brush tip shape. If I turn up the spacing, you can control the spacing of these little scattered particles. Look at this. You can also go play around with that, and you can just turn it off, but I recommend just having it on. So there's so much to do here. And the bigger it is, of course, the bigger particles you're going to have. Alright, well let's go ahead and test this out. But first, before we leave the brushes palette, what we must do before we forget, and just to make sure we don't erase or destroy the brush that we just created here, it's a good idea to go ahead and make it a new brush. Easy way to do this, just come down to the bottom of the brushes palette, you'll find the create new brush button right here. Go ahead and click on that, and then just give it a name. So we can call it scattering brush. Now to find this scattering brush, what we can do is click on the brush presets option right here, and you'll find it at the very bottom in the brushes palette. If you go into the brushes palette, it usually starts off at the top, so you'll have to scroll all the way down to the bottom, and it should be the last one right here. But the cool thing is that we can go back and adjust the brush as well. We can right click on it, rename the brush, we can delete the brush, we can do whatever we want. I like to create multiple different scattering type brushes and then just pick the one that I like best, or just create a whole bunch of them and have them all with different settings, and so you have different types of scattering brushes. You can do whatever you want. I want to go ahead and move the brushes palette out of the way here. We are on the bubbles layer right here, so what I'll do is just come over here to the toolbar and click on the foreground. Let's paint with this brush using a blue, like a dark blue. I can go ahead and just try that for now, just to kind of give you an idea, on what this looks like. Let me go ahead and brighten this up just a touch, and then I'll go ahead and increase the diameter. There we go. And what I'm doing right now is just kind of giving you an idea on what this looks like. Now it's a little hard to get it to look just perfect with just the brush, so that's why I like to go ahead and paint over the orb like this, and then I can just go back and touch it up with the eraser. But let me show you the coolest thing of all. I'm going to go ahead and just decrease the master diameter a little bit, and I'll probably adjust the fade a little more here. There we go. I'm going to click on the foreground and select a brighter blue color. And then if I need to, I can just lower the opacity of that later on. Just something like this. I'm just going to paint right along him right here. There you go. Something that looks like that. And then what I'll do is over here on the layers palette, I'll just lower the opacity just to make that blend in. And you can see that is what I've done on this image over here. That's pretty much the same thing. And every time I do this, the orbs always look different. So I never create the same looking orb again and again, but you know, they're always different. And that's okay. It just, so you can create multiple orbs and you'll know that they all look different. It's just, you know, it's hard to create the same one anyway. But you can come in here and I can add some more tails onto him like that. Look at that, a little little space creature there. What I'm going to do is turn or close this brushes palette, and it looks like I'm trying to click the close button. That's not working though. It must be a bug in Photoshop or something. I don't know what the deal is there, but I'm going to come up here to Window and let's see if this will work. So I can't close the the brushes palette in Photoshop. So we're out of luck there, folks. I'm going to go ahead and just drag this up to the palette well. That was kind of interesting, but anyway, so check it out. And so let's get back, or let's just go over here to the layers palette and make that background invisible. And now we can see the orb over the image here. Now what I can do with this is a whole bunch of stuff. I can select both the blue orb and the bubbles layer together. If you have CS2, you can hold down the Shift key and click on one layer, then hold down Shift, click on the other layer that you would like to link to it. And now you are moving both layers at the same time. Now if you have Photoshop CS or earlier, then you will have to use the linking well right next to the layer. So you'll have to click on one and then link the other one to it. But I'm going to go ahead and hold down Shift and then click on the bubbles one as well, just to link these together. And now the coolest thing is that since we used very small brushes, what we can do is just flip this orb around any way we want by using the transformation commands here. Edit, transformation, and I can flip this guy around. Look at that. And we can put him down here. And I can go to Edit, Free Transform, and rotate him around a little bit, just like that. Cool. And so I'll go ahead and confirm that by pressing the Enter key. And that looks great. Now let's go over and create the next orb for this project.